Hey, what's going on, y'all? Back with another one. Back with another one. This is Sunday Dailies. This is Sunday Dailies, the 28th edition. Sunday Dailies. Yes, yes, yes. Sunday Dailies. Damn, they taking the views. I had a lot of views on that. I don't know what happened. Yeah, YouTube try to take views. You know how it is. YouTube be on that bull. But you know how it is. I don't pay attention to the so-called numbers and things like that nature. And quite frankly, NFL season's here. You already know the teams is going on, and but that Charlo Canelo fight, I heard Canelo Alvarez won the fight, which I'm not surprised. I mean, that's the most experienced fighter of all time, and I believe that the experience of his size. A lot of people rely on his size. His size don't really matter in a fight. A lot of people try to say size. No, it does not. It's the skill set, and they think Canelo's good. Canelo's not that good. Like, he ducks a couple of fighters. I don't, and I'm not a big fan of Canelo. Canelo's not all that. The only reason Canelo beat Charlo, that was an easier fight. I mean, Charlo was looking for a payday because he was on $1 million worth of game, wanting some money, and they want to get paid. Just because you win all those belts, like I said, he's making all that money. That don't mean nothing. Yeah, he is, but he's not making a lot of money. A lot of fighters end up being broke. I'm trying to tell you, they have to pay the IRS and all this stuff. I try to tell you, that still goes on, bro. I don't know what world y'all watching. Boxing's always been corrupt. It died years ago. These promoters, they're scrambling to get change. You know what I'm saying? That's why when it's entertainment, it's been fake. So my team is playing the Commanders today. We should win that game. To be honest with you, the Bears and the Broncos. Now, the Broncos should definitely beat the Chicago Bears. There's no excuse. If they lose this game, they just suck. Titans and Bengals, that should be a good game. Tennessee may beat Cincinnati, but if Cincinnati end up winning, that's a good win for them. Dallas versus New England Patriots. Now, Ezekiel Elliott's gonna go off. He's gonna go off. If Dallas loses this game to the Patriots, you already know Dallas is out of it. I don't see them going to the playoffs. If you lose a game against a team that's 1-2, I mean, they should able to beat them. But remember, they got Ezekiel Elliott. This is week 5 right now. A lot of people try to say week 4, but it's technically week 5. And you gotta understand something. Dolphins is undefeated. Cowboys is 2-1. Now, Cowboys can be 2-2 in this game too. They can lose the game. So you got one is 1-2, and you got one is 2-1. Dallas is okay. Dak, if he throws interception in that game against the Patriots, over. Belichick knows how to scheme this guy. So McCarthy is not a good coach. That's why Dallas is not always good, man. He's the reason. But let me tell you something. The Eagles, they 3-0 right now. They got Jalen Hurts and the guys. They got a few players hurt, but they'll be back. 49ers is 3-0. They're gonna take that division. Me personally, I think the 49ers gonna take it. Seahawks will be on the tail end. The Rams is over. It's over for the Cardinals and the Rams. But they beat Dallas. That was good by Arizona. That was a good win. They can always bounce back. The Lions is 3-1, by the way. I'm glad the Lions won that game. They're going to be the top leaders in the division. But that not Matthew Stafford, but that Matt guy that used to be with Belichick, he's got his schemes too. See, a lot of it comes from Belichick's teaching from the Bill Parcells days and the doctrine. So the Lions is going to be good. This is a different era. No Tom Brady, no Belichick domination. It could be any of these teams. It could be Detroit, whoever. Atlanta's 2-1 right now. They 2-1. Are they gonna win today? That's all I'm gonna say. But that's the NFC, and then the AFC. You already know what it is. And the Chiefs, me personally, they're 2-1. So it's going to be a good game today. I mean, it's going to be a lot of good games today, this Sunday, and you already know what's coming up. But the Saints have their way and whatever. The Buccaneers, that'd be interesting because it's interesting games of those two. And the Panthers should beat Minnesota because they're losing. They should get a win on the board. So it's a lot of tough challenges. Now, the Browns and Ravens will be a hard-hitting game. Now the Jaguars and the Falcons. Now the Jaguars should beat the Falcons, but the Falcons is tough. If Atlanta beats Jacksonville, you already know that's. But we already know the Lions beat Green Bay. That was Thursday of last week. Thursday, that week. So yeah, we beat the Buccaneers, so we're 3-0. But now we're playing the Commanders this new week. It is what it is. So it's pretty much the same. So yeah, man. October week 5. This is week 5, by the way. Is it week 5? Actually, we're week 4. Excuse me, week 4. We're in week 4. Excuse me. So we're in week 4. NFL is different, so they look at week 4 different. So week 4 is now. Yeah, week 4. Now week 5 is a little different. That's next October. What week 4 is? Well, it's gonna be. You already know who's who on week 3, but week 4, you already know who's gonna stay at that spot. But week 5, that's when you know. And you start looking at week 18. There's a bye week and all this other stuff. So, but enough on the NFL. So, yeah, battle rap's in a good state. Verb is going after people as usual. He's doing his thing in spaces, but people get pissed every time they trigger him. Now they want to resort to physical harm each other. But you got people maintaining that fray. So it's like, I don't like this little that right there. Maintain the fray, but I'll get it right. Get it right here because it's leaning. The table's acting up. It just goes to show you whereas the so-called people at is today. But in reality, you just look at the big picture and see things for what it is. So I don't want to hit nothing strenuous, but y'all give me 1 second. I'm gonna take the screen for a minute. Yeah, I have to make sure I'm in here, but I know y'all barely see my face, but as long as you hear the audio, that's good. So, it's in the morning. I'm about to work out in a couple more minutes, but or should I say the next hour? I'll say the next hour. And once I get that done, then I'll, do my thing and somewhat. But yeah, man, just took the flu shot. I think, was it yesterday? And Dion, they had a close game. Saturday's game, Dion had a close game. Just like Mace predicted on it is what it is, and Colorado's on pace. But UFC is good, They ain't gonna win a national championship. I know that. It's just what it is. Like NCAA football was excellent yesterday. I mean, everybody played a field. So I'm just looking at it like this. Colorado will be back. The next game they'll win and they'll bounce back, but they're missing that defensive guy and they got a future ahead of them. If they still keep going, see, college football always starts early. They always start early. I keep forgetting. I can't compare them to the NFL. I can't. So that was week. Who they lost to? That's week 5. Last week was week 5 in college football. Georgia beat Auburn. They barely beat Auburn, by the way. Georgia's going to be Georgia. Georgia's foolish. Now, they had a close game, USC versus Colorado, in that division. Utah Utes lost to Oregon State. See, Utah is not a football team. They're a basketball team. They're not known for basketball. They known for basketball, excuse me. They known for basketball, but not known for football. And that's basically it. And then you got Mississippi, Ole Miss beating the brakes off of LSU. LSU ain't been the same. After that championship, they ain't been the same. They done fell off. Oregon ain't they number 9. It was number 10 last week, so they up there. Oregon and USC would be a nice game, but I pick USC to beat Oregon. Oregon's not that good. Washington and Arizona. Now Washington deserved that win because they seventh in the top 25, and then you got Ohio State is still good. That's gonna be this coming up Saturday this week. They play Maryland. That ain't no game. LSU versus Missouri. Now LSU should beat Missouri. Me personally, they should beat Missouri. Oklahoma should be competitive against Texas, but Texas is good. They 3 in the 25. Yeah, Texas is pretty good. Texas is solid. They have some players. Um, you got Florida State doing good. It's pretty much it, And then Georgia versus Kentucky, that ain't no game. They gonna beat the Wildcats. Georgia's gonna be undefeated before you know it. Michigan is good. They beat Minnesota. Michigan should beat Georgia in the national championship game. I picked Michigan because they have a chance this year. There ain't no Alabama, nothing holding them back. Georgia Tech, Miami, University of Miami. TCU is done. They ain't going back. They got knocked out. So Oregon, Washington, and that's the weeks past. But college football is what it is. But nothing special, no drama. But it just goes to show you that we're in a standstill. But me personally, I'll get this right quick. When you look at these things and you figure out what's the worth, why does anything matter at this point in the sports world? But everybody's criticizing Dion and stuff like that. But shouts out to Dreamers Pro and Two Raw for Sports, or also known as Two Raw for TV. Two Raw. He has channels you can subscribe to. Two Raw for TV, Two Raw for Sports. He brought this up by Neil Long, and just like I said, just like I predicted, just like I predicted. It's just like I predicted because one, you always look at what's what, but then you look at the big picture and you be like, okay, this is what you get. But and I was looking at that. I said, wait a minute, this is one of those things that you see what's going on, and mainly I'm just looking at it like this: why would anybody be focused on the Celtics? I mean, we just talked about. I had a conversation called with my father in the car, and we talked about Boston, how they don't celebrate Larry Bird and things like that. They only celebrate them when they talk about championships and things like that. I'm talking about the Boston media, and a lot of people say they do, but no, they don't. When they talk about the Celtics up there, he don't even get mentioned. They mention the team, but they don't mention Larry Bird like that. Kind of like what they do Magic. A lot of people say all teams do. That's not always true. Okay, they focus on the now. If you notice, the Celtic teams is similar to the Yankees. A lot of people try to compare them to something else, which is not true because the Lakers fan base is basically like the Dodger fans. When I look at the Dodgers, when I look at the Lakers, what they have in common? They moved to LA, right? Because that Brooklyn team, the Dodgers, was a New York team, by the way. But the Dodgers went to a bigger market called LA. LA got huge, and they has are everywhere. Now, if you're a Lakers fan, they fuck with those teams. Now, when you see racism, you talking about Boston and the Bronx, of course, the Italians, they always hate blacks anyway. They always have. I mean, I'm just saying from a Bronx perspective, like back then they used the N-word, call us moolies and mullions and all that shit. But that's the truth. But that's a fact, and I think there's a nigga that I used to watch on the street, Sabak. They was talking about that because they from New York and they broke this down. And shouts out to Basketball Facts. And I told him this too. I think I told my dad this about him in this channel. He said he's originally from New York, and he said the fan base out there, cause somebody a outsider that's a fan of some other team, but went to Yankee Stadium, the new Yankee Stadium, right? There's a lot of racial shit going on. And the reason why I don't fuck with the Yankees, a lot of people try to say they're good. No, the Yankees just overrated, bro. I just don't like them because I don't like their fan base. I mean, I'm not dissing New York. This is no diss to y'all. It's just I don't like their fan base. Their fan base is like it's out there. They have a big fan base around the world. A lot of people think it's just specifically in the Bronx. It's not true. They go across the globe. Now the rappers wore it as a uniform. If you watch battle rap, the Yankees is their team. I don't care. If I was born and raised in New York, I'd pick the Mets. I'm just gonna be biased. I'm not a Mets guy. I'm not a Mets guy. I'm a Braves guy. So you can see the hat all the time. You can see, this camouflage Braves hat. Now I have some old Braves hats too. Their colors in the closet over here, and that's it. I rep the Atlanta Braves. I'm sorry, that's just one of my favorite teams. I like a lot of other teams after that too, but in baseball. But I fuck with the Braves heavy. But the Yankees, they ain't one of my personal favorites. But let me tell you something. Did I like players on some of the team? Absolutely. Reggie Jackson, it's some good players. I'm not knocking the Yankees though, and I like Derek Jeter, and it's nothing wrong with Derek Jeter. But the Yankees, this just wasn't my team. No, no. The shit they be doing. And I think Star Report said this. He said you can't have a full beard on there. They believe in that mustache or a shaved face. They prefer that. I don't know if you have a mustache, but if you do, or they want you to trim it or something, they have a rule. They have rules. A lot of people try to say the Celtics don't have rules. Yes, they do. If you act up and don't follow their protocols, and I've heard this from certain NBA players, and Kevin Durant said, no, he good. And people try to recruit. They just try to recruit Kevin Durant. My dad was saying that too. One of his team and one of the people in Boston PR wanted Kevin Durant because, to win a title. It's not happening. Boston always want to steal players and try to use them for a championship. Then when they get tired of you, look what they did to IT. The other Isaiah Thomas from Seattle, not Zeke, but the other Isaiah Thomas, went out there and just did him dirty. He did good for them in the playoffs. We all know the game. But Boston is known for shit like that. Now, when you talk about great champions, yeah, you got to talk about Red Auerbach, Bob Cousy, Bill Russell. That's what they'll tell you, but they're not going to. Can they tell you about Larry Bird? Absolutely, in reference of championships. Not even in stats and you got to look the whole entirety. Yeah, he helped that team. He's from Indiana, but they don't give him a lot of praise. I'm talking about outside of basketball. They don't give him a lot of praise in Boston like that. Let's just keep it real. They try to say they do, but they don't. They looked at him based off the skin color is white. And the reason they called I'm gonna tell you a secret why people call Larry Bird overrated. I'm gonna tell you why they call him overrated. Me personally, I'm neutral with Larry Bird now. Did I used to think like that when I was young? Of course. At the time, I was looking at the NBA 80s as racism, right? But let me tell you something. When I got a little older, past, at 10 years old, that's how I looked at it. Because I was studying race and everything else. Okay, fast forward to high school, I kind of changed that. I look at what Boston was when I was really into basketball and had a passion for it in my teen years. I realized that they used them as a prop for their little championship dominance, but Boston couldn't deliver because you had a lot of good teams. Magic was the best. I'm sorry. Magic is the greatest Laker I've ever seen in my lifetime. I saw him in the 90s. He was on the tail end, but he was in good shape with the AIDS team. That's a whole nother conversation. I ain't going to get into it on YouTube or any video, whatever. But when you think about the 80s NBA, everybody's going to think about Magic Bird, right? But in reality, there's other great players. You got your Pistons, you got your the Nuggets with Alex English, Sidney Moncrief, got Dr. J. It's so many good teams. And the Knicks were good too, but the Knicks, their problem was his injuries. Bernard King was good. They wanted him and Ewing to be a duo, but that wasn't going to happen. The 80s was just wide open. But the 90s had teams. And then when they started adding teams, I believe was the Vancouver Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors in 95, I believe. Yeah. So, yeah, the NBA had 29 teams. I came watching the NBA when I was younger. I remember when they had lesser teams than that when I was a lot older. So I was born in the late 80s, but in the early 90s, I saw the less teams, like 20-something or 27 teams. But when they added two more teams, it's 29 teams. So I've been watching the NBA when they had 27 to 29 teams in that span. Then the early 2000s, same concept. And then when they added Memphis, that's like 30 teams. Like they had Memphis and they got rid of Vancouver. They added Memphis. That's like 30 teams or whatever. The new Charlotte and New Orleans. That's when you got 30 teams in the NBA. Now they try to add like 32, 33, 34 teams. We don't know because the NBA is trying to expand because this new play-in, not the play-in tournament, but the in-season tournament is kind of silly, by the way. It's kind of silly, but that's a whole nother topic. I'm not going to get into that. I may talk about that in independent thinking series and things like that. But Larry Bird, when I was getting older, like probably in my 20s or whatever, and I realized I studied the 80s basketball way more than anybody else. They appreciate him. I'd say that there's some people that are Boston Celtic fans in New York. And I served a guy years ago while I was in the dealership a couple years back. Even when in my 20s, tell him about the history of the NBA and things like that. And I was into it in the early 20s too, and still messing with the basketball at the time. And I kind of stopped playing in 2012. I'm kind of out of shape now. I need to get back in shape to shoot some shots or whatever. You know, it's been a minute since I played a full game or a shot. It's been a long time. But in reality, it's just like people outside of Boston, they do respect Larry Bird. Now, if he's from Indiana, yeah, he rebuild. He actually turned around the Indiana Pacers. He's from Indiana, right? But they did not big him up in Boston. And I think it's because he's got 3 championships. Me personally, I think the acquisition of Reggie Lewis and Len Bias was his empire. He said he was going to retire if they would have took over, but circumstances happen. You know what happened to Len Bias. You know what happened to Reggie Lewis. He didn't live long in the 90s, so he died in 93, and I'll never forget that. It's one of my favorite wing guys of all time. Good dude. And it's a shame that he passed away. I was like, damn, that was awful. And this is during the Jordan era. See, Jordan had the 90s. He didn't have the 80s, but he had the 90s. The media was pushing him way more than Magic and Bird. You know why? Because in 84, he gave him more money. Even though Bird and Magic did save the dying ticket sales and arena that I surged about in the late 80s and the early 80s, Bird and Magic kind of rebuild the NBA. The NBA was saved, to me personally, was 1980. And I think when Magic won the championship, the stocks went up. It went up every year. The 80s was a good era for finesse, intense, high-speed basketball. It was a lot faster, but it was very finesseful too. It wasn't, I mean, did it have physicality? Absolutely. They was fist fighting. They was doing all that. You know, I'll say around the mid-80s and the late 80s. I mean, it was physical then a little bit. You know, it wasn't physical like the 70s and the 60s and on up. If you want to go by 70s, so around the 40s, American League called NBL/BA, known as the NBA, right? That's when it was physical and it was punching you in the face. Now, prior to that, those years past the 40s, the 30s, and when it was created in the 19th century, everybody was fighting and throwing each other on the floor. Basketball was a violent sport before it became organized, and they had to finesse some of the things a little bit and tell you not to hurt nobody. Basketball was a physical sport before there was anything. It had to be modernized a little bit, but the 40s, you saw the techniques and the shooting, the mechanics, and no shot clock, no nothing. You just scored. But when they created a shot clock, that changes the whole thing. But I forget what year they created a shot clock, but that's a whole nother. I could get into basketball history all day, but I'm saying that's how the league was. But when Bill Russell came in the 50s, he kind of changed the game, what modern basketball looked like. But the 60s came, Wilt changed the game. Now, to me, he's the greatest of all time. Wilt Chamberlain is one of the greatest big men to ever live, most skilled big man of all time. What hurt Wilt is the media didn't want to push his stats the way it was. And I've learned this as a kid and why he was so great. That man was Superman to me. A lot of people look at him as Goliath. Yeah, you could say he had a Goliath complex. To me, he had a Superman complex. He had an ego. I understand why. He was good. he wrote about books having intercourse and sex with multiple women, but we ain't gonna get into that. That's a whole nother story on Wilt. But Wilt understood one thing. You got to be yourself. Now, he wasn't in no pro-black stuff, and that's why I liked about Wilt. Wilt didn't have to be about that, and I think he set that as a standard. That's why Michael Jordan kind of took that standard. He took it from everybody else, but he took that standard to be the best. Wilt brought team play, and a lot of people try to say he didn't. He brought team play, and he brought stats. I'm sorry. Wilt understood the NBA more before than anybody. If you look at modern basketball, why people love stats and why these media junkies love stats, well, Wilt is talked about because he's a great big man. They hate on him because when Mike came in, he changed that. And he didn't like Michael Jordan, by the way. And that's a fact by Bill Walton. Bill Walton said that. They was arguing in 97. They did not like each other because it was a media thing. Who gets the media love? You know what I'm saying? They got away from Wilt, but they pick any player who they like Bird, Magic, whoever, and Jay and all that stuff. But when Michael came, that changed. The media was on him. They was pushing him to become a champion, and he eventually became. And then the media tried to turn on Mike when he retired too. Try that shit. They try to do everything. Me, I don't think they hate Mike. They just want him to just dominate, you know. But Michael had that aura. I'm sorry, he dominated the Knights, and he's still talked about in this century. Why? Because he dominated the 90s. That's it. Michael Jordan dominated the 90s. A lot of people that hate Michael Jordan, I'm gonna tell you why they hate him. They hate him because they were probably fans of Patrick Ewing and all the other teams they like in the NBA. And I saw this at the 90s as a kid. Not everybody liked Michael Jordan, but the ones that didn't have to show it. They supported it. They know Jordan was great. Everybody. It was people in the media, stars, certain people that liked Chicago. Chicago was reputable back then. Chicago was it was okay to be a Chicago Bull supporter. I love the Bulls. Anytime you play an NBA game in the 90s, you think about Michael Jordan. You think about Michael Jordan. You think about his second three-peat with Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen. You think about Michael and Scottie and Phil, the most overhyped. A lot of people try to say he's overrated, but in a sense, I kind of agree with some people. But me personally, I think he was. He's not like, is he the greatest chemistry coach? I'm gonna probably do a segment about chemistry coaches and textbook coaching. I'm going to talk about Phil Jackson's accomplishments. I know he was a player. He used to play for the Knicks, won 2 championships. I give him that. But talent, he's not good at talent. But he's a great chemistry coach. And they said, what's a chemistry coach, sir? And I said, well, a chemistry coach, you got stars already tailor-made for you. Know how to play and set plays. And now I give Phil Jackson the triangle. I give him the triangle. I give him the spacing that the Bulls had. The Bulls had a lot of spacing. But Bulls knew how to, and they ran from Jordan. I believe it was Jordan, Scottie, and a few other players. They did this in the early 90s. They actually did it when they was trying to win a championship. And they did this with, I think they used Rodman one time in certain situations. They use it every player. So Mike was the key. He ball handled, and there was other people handling the ball. You had Ron Harper. You know, it worked. That offense worked. And it also was implemented by the Lakers. You know, the Lakers won 3 straight based off the triangle offenses and certain defenses and things like that. So Phil knew what he was doing. I mean, is Phil a perfect coach? No. He was a decent coach. Me, I say he's decent. Becoming the greatest coach, it's just like, it's a stretch. It's questionable. But I understand why people like Phil Jackson. I didn't care for Phil Jackson. To be honest, I didn't care for him. Like, even as a kid, I knew he was the coach back then, but I didn't care for him. Because I think Phil Jackson, you just had Michael Jordan. I compared Phil Jackson to Red Auerbach. Red Auerbach, him, and Steve Kerr are great chemistry coaches. Chemistry coaches, they give you, you know why I say, what's the chemistry coach? Well, a chemistry coach, they give you chemistry. Like they're player friendly. Let's just say it like that. If you're a coach that's player friendly, I'll give you an example. Ty Lue is a great example. Him, and then you got LeBron's handpicked Darvin Ham. He's another chemistry coach. Me personally, all these guys are handpicked or non-handpicked, like Phil Jackson and Red Auerbach. They understand how to get certain people. They're like hype men in a sense. But they knew they had stars, and stars know how to figure out and get their own plays. They don't have to use a triangle. They use other motions. But if you really look at the 90s was simple back then. Yeah, it's a little slower. It had faster, but they had defense. But if you think about the 2000s, oh my God. 2000s was just something else. I mean, yeah, you had talent. It was great. But 2010, LeBron kind of ruined it. You know, a lot of people said this is the LeBron James era. Technically, it's not an era for LeBron. It's really the Kobe Bryant era. Because rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When he passed away in 2020, he dominated the 2000s, early 2000s until his retirement. But he is still talked about in certain circles on YouTube and everywhere else. He's mentioned. If you're a diehard former Lakers fan, they still talk about Kobe Bryant, but they do not acknowledge LeBron. That's why the Lakers are what they are. The Lakers are gonna be trash the next couple of years. This is me personally. They're not winning a championship, not with LeBron. No, they're gonna be the equivalent of the New York Knicks, and their ownership is terrible. I'm just gonna be real. My dad's a Lakers fan, a longtime Lakers fan. I know he's hurting about it, but reality, I try to tell him Lakers ain't going nowhere. Just because they got LeBron, they're not winning a championship this year. I'm not picking them. I'm picking who's going to be in the finals. It'll be the Denver Nuggets or coming out of the West. To me, they're coming out of the West. There's a lot of good teams in the West. They're good, but they're not beating Denver. Denver's going to be a solid team. That's just how it is. But then again, you know what's going on. But that's how you look at Denver. But yeah, but Milwaukee, that trade with Dame, that's gonna be a great move. But that's just how I look at it in so many focus. But anyways, you know, let me be right back. I'm going on mute. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I had some background noise. I had to cut that bullshit off over there. But anyways, yeah, they don't mention Larry, and we're gonna go back to Larry Bird. They don't mention Larry Bird like that. They don't mention him like they. I'll say it like this: the last time they mentioned him in reference, if you watch the games, if you watch Celtic games, I'm not a Celtic guy. I don't really care for him, but I used to watch him a lot years ago, and they mentioned him in passing in the '90s, 2000s. Even though when he's coaching the Pacers, wherever, and rebuilding them, being GM, he did a good job with the Pacers organization years and years. But if you look at the 21st century, they completely forgotten Larry Bird. That's just me personally. I'm not a Larry Bird supporter. I'm neutral with him, but I have to say it. That's because he's from Indiana. Now you have these uppity redneck so-called white people right in Boston. That's just a fact. They don't care if they got, and look what they did David Ortiz, and shout out to Turov for saying he said he's in the Hall of Fame because of them. Yeah. And known to take PEDs. So that goes to show you you can't compare the Red Sox to the Celtics. You just can't. I understand why people do that. That's because it's a Boston thing. I don't care about that. When you look at the Celtics, you think of another sport. Who is the most talked about in media? Yeah, they got their own media. We get that, but that's irrelevant. That's the second greatest thing about Boston. They have their own media. And Colin Cowherd broke this down because he used to live up there and tell you that's because you're looking at a city, but we're talking about a national corporate big market popularity that owns their own shit. Boston Celtics is standard in the NBA. If they win another championship, they are the favorites to win it. They have no excuses not beat Milwaukee this year. Now, if Milwaukee beats them, me personally, I'm picking the Bucks. I don't care for the Celtics. The Celtics, their problem is you got, and this somebody said this in a live stream. They said you got too many Scottie Pippins, and they do. See, Brown and Tatum turns over the damn ball. That's just me personally. That's why I don't like this modern Celtics team. Now, Jason Tatum is straight. I like Tatum. He's good. Okay, he's good, but he's playing on a team that I know he's from St. Louis, but they're not winning. If he wants to win a championship, that Celtics team going to have to do something. Jaylen Brown signed a long contract. Most people say he don't deserve it. To me, I think he deserves it because he's trying to rebuild a community in Boston. Boston is a hard sell, my man. Nobody wants to play for the Celtics. Nobody, unless you're winning the championship. The only thing about Boston, they're spoiled, just like Philadelphia and all them other cities. Championships. That's all they care about. It's like the Yankees. They're equivalent to the Yankees. They have the same fan bases. You can see it in Harlem when them Harlem niggas wear those Celtic hats on them rap videos with 40 cal. And I saw one. And when I saw that shit, how the hell you wearing a Celtics hat and you from Harlem? And I'll never forget, Cam asked this question to Paul Pierce. He had Paul Pierce on It Is What It Is. Y'all need to watch that with Paul Pierce and watch the long version, like the hour. And he said, Paul, why is not everybody going to the Celtics? He said, you know why? There ain't no. And when Paul Pierce said this, and this is factual what I'm saying, what they think about, that says a lot about Boston, not about Larry Bird, but that says a lot about Boston. They don't even acknowledge Larry Bird like that or Paul Pierce. Only time they acknowledge Paul Pierce is the recent championship. They do, but not in passing. But Paul has to be their ambassador to say they ain't racist. But yeah, that fans has a racist culture. We ain't gonna get into that. But Paul said, ain't nobody playing for no damn Celtics. They're not cool enough. And when Paul said something like that in the podcast, and he said they're not cool enough, that lets me know what Boston is. They're a basic ass team, the same uniform, same shit, green and white. They have not changed. Yeah, they had a little gold and sprinkled the green and gold. I remember that back in the day when KG wore it and prior. Yeah, they had those colors. Paul Pierce wore those colors. That ain't new. But they still wore that green and white. Yeah, they wear black as their alternate. That's their alternate. That's new. Okay, that black and green is new. That's not traditionally set, but it's still plain as hell because they kept the traditional green and white and green as their colors. If you represent the Celtics, look at the Yankees. They wear the same shit. Yeah, they have their gray with the navy color and then the white navy and they have sometimes they have like an alternate navy or something like that. I don't know what the Yankees have, but that's what they have. Traditional shit. Traditional shit. Traditional. But you understand what's going on. But you understand that me personally, I look at this as the business model that they're pushing. You know what I'm saying? But that's how you got to look at it. Yeah. I'm going to plug this up because I don't want my computer to just go out. And, you know, this right quick. You know, it's 9:23 right now. I got 30 minutes in, so let's see what my thing is saying. I'm recording. But yeah, man, it just goes to show you where we at today. But I look at this as like, is this even real? Is this even real? But you know, I'm just gonna look at it real quick, and I'm just like, is that really what Boston's about? I mean, I just can't get into the Celtics. I just want to talk about it because I felt like Larry Bird. He's talked about based off championships, but not any other accolades they talk about. They do talk about it, but there's a few people you can watch. You can watch Drew Raw. They talk about his stats and stuff. You can go online on YouTube. Like I think you can watch Drew Raw for sports, Drew Raw for TV. He's got great channels. They break down Larry Bird and others. You got the people that talk about the Celtics. They diehard Larry Bird fans. I bet you they ain't from Boston. They probably from Indiana. Some of them is probably where I'm from originally in Tennessee, and others. That's it in New York. But you don't see Boston people talk about it. They talk about them, but they just talk about them in passing based off championships. That's just me personally. Now, Magic, when they talk about Magic, when you think about the Lakers, who they talk about? They talk about Magic Johnson. Actually, they talk about Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, Wilt Chamberlain. If you're a diehard Lakers, all-time Lakers fan, supporter, right? They talk about those guys. Kobe, Magic, Wilt, Kareem, James Worthy, all the Lakers, Shaquille O'Neal, of course. And, you know, LeBron, that's a different fan base. That's not a Laker fan base. That's a bandwagon fan base that came from Miami. Okay, let's just say it like that. And then the ones that really love LeBron, those are the ones that burn his jersey from Cleveland. But we ain't gonna get that. They're delusional, right? That's a whole nother topic on that. I have to separate the two because it's not a real support base. And if people say that it's a real, they're fucking delusional. Y'all gonna be LeBron's gonna destroy that team when he leaves. There ain't gonna be no more. I'm trying to tell you, the Lakers gonna end up moving or whatever it is. Like I said, they ain't gonna move. No time soon, right? But don't be surprised if she runs that team to the ground. You know how kids do. Come on now. The Lakers ain't the same in years. Ain't nobody messing with the Lakers. You can't have everybody. Lakers ain't going back. Celtics have a right to go back. If they win this year and they beat Denver, I'm laughing because Denver is what they were. They have a little one-dimensionalness in them. But Jokic is good. Now, Jokic can prove me wrong this year. Now, I picked them to come out of the West this year. I didn't last year, but this year they're for real. They got, as long as they have Jamal Murray, and if he showed me if they went back to back, that lets me know Jokic he's up there. If he keeps doing this, who's gonna stop Denver? They ain't got an answer for that. Just because they lost a couple players, look at the draft picks they got. They're not bad, but if they improve them in this month, in a year, and the next year, they're gonna win more championships. Y'all don't know, man, because Denver is Denver. And we don't know Jokic's future. Is he going to stay in Denver? We don't know. If he's all-time Nugget, we'll see. Be like Dirk, but if he goes anywhere else, he's good. He's not the most athletic, but if he chooses to go somewhere else, we'll see. But Giannis said he want to go to L.A., right? But that backfired at goddamn Lillard. So what's Giannis' excuse? They shut him the fuck up. No excuses, Giannis. I don't want to hear what Giannis said. And I like Giannis, by the way. I'm not a Bucks guy, but I always like Giannis. But Giannis, no excuse. You got Damian Lillard, and Damian Lillard ain't got no excuse either. They can win this year if they want to. If they do win this year, and Giannis is looking for a championship, if he beats Jokic, I think they're the team to do it because you have a small market team versus a mid-market team. A lot of people call them small market based off whatever, but excuse me for a minute. And they expect them to be great. Excuse me for that. My sinus is acting up, but you know how that goes. That bullshit goes. I can't wait till this when it gets cold and they knock that pollen out. I don't have to be like that all the time, but anyways, no excuses for nobody. That goes for everybody on both coasts. Nobody. I don't hear no excuses. If y'all got a good team this year, y'all better fucking win because I don't want to hear nothing. But yeah, man, that's all I talk about. A little bit of sports, a little bit of Celtic history, and a little bit about Larry Bird, why he's not mentioned a lot in Boston, because there's a lot of biases. There's a lot of people still like Bob Cousy. I understand. And you got Bill Russell. A lot of people say they don't talk about Bill Russell. They don't talk about Bill Russell based off championships, but they do. They give him respect. How they look at Bill Russell, it's the 60s. That's it. If you think about the 50s and the 60s, you give that to Bill Russell. And the white folks said, yeah, Bill's great. Him, Bob, without Bill, they wouldn't be nothing. That's a fact, right? Now, Dave Collins and Don Nelson is not the most talked about besides Larry Bird and Havlicek. I don't like that. If you're a true Celtics fan, you should talk about the 70s. I tried to do that in a dealership one time, and you got these Celtic fans, but they never mentioned the 70s. They never mentioned the 80s. You know why? Because they don't respect the 80s and the 70s of the Celtics. There's a lot of biasness in that fan base, by the way. Paul Pierce, that's another story. He won that championship. I remember. That's the only thing they remember. If you're a Celtic fan from 08 and then you probably was a couple years after me born or around my age, you don't remember studying the Celtics as a kid. You just don't. You just don't. Because a lot of people, and I'm just sticking to this topic because I feel like I got to do a piece on Boston. I might have to do a piece on Boston in one of these segments on here on Sunday dailies, and then we're going to talk about Celtics history. That's it. I want to do a piece on it. I may do a piece on the independent thinking series, and I might do that. I don't know if I'm going to do it this week. I may do a piece on that. I might not do it this independent thinking series, but we're going to talk about how Boston is Boston, and I compare the Celtics to the Yankees because they got the same type of management. They have like a group. Nah, it is. So with that, until next time, I will see y'all the Independent Thinking series. I believe it's on the 3rd of Tuesday, right? And I will see you this Thursday on Thursday Thrills. Y'all already know what it is. Thursday Thrills, the 77th edition, and we're gonna be banging. So with that, until next time, shalom to the people of Israel and the Gentiles, of course. Shalom to everybody. Until next time, and I'm out.